Hi, it's me, Carolyn, and I have another pick-a pile reading for you today. This pick-a pile is going to be a lot of fun because it's a shadow work reading, but we're using Taylor Swift lyrics from the song The Anti-Hero to help you connect with which pile has a message for you. So my goal with this reading is to help you pinpoint what areas of your life or what situations in your life are causing you to subconsciously know that something isn't right, it's not aligned with you, but not be consciously able to change anything about it. My goal with this reading is to bring that awareness to you so you can take that control and power back into your life. And so I have 4 different piles for you to choose today. So we have pile 1 with all of the people I've ghosted stand there in the room. Pile 2 with I'll stare directly at the sun but never in the mirror. Pile 3 with pierced through the heart but never killed. And pile 4, one day I'll watch as you're leaving. And as you can see, I use different tarot cards for all of the piles. So you can choose your reading however it resonates with you. You can look at the images of the cards, you can think about the lyrics, you can pick your number, you can look at the timestamps below and see what timestamp resonates for you. What I would suggest with this reading, because it has to deal with shadow work and because we're fighting your ego with this message, go with the pile that makes you the most uncomfortable. With the pile that kind of sparks some sort of ick for your ego, where it simultaneously intrigues you, but you want to skip past it. Like it piques your attention and then right away you quickly dismissed it. Like, oh no, that's not the pile for me. That most likely is the pile for you and your ego doesn't want you to hear that message. And if you're drawn to multiple different piles or you don't know which to pick, you can always watch more than one. Sometimes in order to get a direct message for you, it's by combining some of the messages. So just allow your intuition to guide you. I want to say if you're new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe. I do more pick a pile readings like this, but I also do educational videos to help you learn tarot and develop your divination skills. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely subscribe. I'll have my playlist linked in the cards above with other videos you can watch after this one. It's my goal on this channel to help give you the life skills you need to make the best choices in your life. And so whether that's with my pick a pile readings or by helping mentor you in some way, I really want to help you learn how to listen to your own intuition. That's why I think shadow work is so important, because it allows us to take control of the things that our mind is dismissing. It allows us to become aware of the things that is actually sabotaging us so that they no longer can. You take away that power. And so I'm really excited for this reading today. I'm going to go ahead and get started with pile number 1. Hi, pile 1. All of the people I've ghosted stand there in the room. These are your cards. Card 28, Sanctuary. Card 12, the Present. The Ace of Swords. The Wheel of Fortune, the Fool. King of Cups, 10 of Swords, and 9 of Wands. So I can definitely see with the cards there is an avoidant attachment style in your life. Now this can be with relationships, but I don't think it's only with relationships. I think this is part of your personality, and I believe that there's a consistent basis of inconsistency in your life. And what I mean by that is if you look at the cards here, you have the Wheel of Fortune, you have the Fool, you have the Ace of Swords. All of these are cards that talk about like taking that first step, like going out, starting something new, having that breakthrough and beginning that cycle. But then you have the 10 of Swords, the 9 of Wands. You also have the King of Cups, which in himself is not a bad card, but in this reading, I think is indicating how you allow your emotional mind, your emotional reaction to things to dictate your results. And when you have it paired with the 10 of Swords and the 9 of Wands, these are cards in which you're not seeing the ending. You're not seeing how you're going to get what you want. You're not seeing the happily ever after, so to speak. And so emotionally, you're going to feel unstable. Even if you are the calm in the storm, if there's still a storm going on, you're never going to be as happy as the King of Cups is when he's in calm waters. There's an inherent difference. When you are this King of Cups, sure, you might be composed, you might look unbothered, you might not even recognize how hurt you can make yourself when you run from situations that you actually want it to work out. Because when you run, you are becoming that King of Cups and taking back control over the situation where you don't see how this is going to work out. You don't see that happily ever after. You maybe have been betrayed by people. Maybe they've turned on you with the 10 of Swords. With the 9 of Wands, you're stuck in this maze. It feels like one hit after the other. It feels like you can't catch a break. And so if you can't catch a break, how are you going to turn it around? You're going to turn it around by leaving. You're going to turn it around by changing up your behaviors, changing up your action, changing up what you're doing. Even if this is internal, for goals that you set for yourself. You begin a goal. Let's think about like New Year's resolution. You start a New Year's resolution. You're super amped for it. You're excited. You really got this. You start it. you see results, then you plateau. When you plateau, instead of pushing forward, instead of finding another way to be consistent with it, you automatically think, this isn't working, let me switch it up entirely. Let me change it where I'm no longer consistent with what I was doing, but now I'm starting a new process. And so this could work in one of two ways. You could completely like switch your goal and change a different direction, different course, and begin that again and start that cycle where you start something, you stop it, and then you pivot. Start something, stop it, pivot, and so on, repeat. Or this could be a cycle in which you simply give up. You say, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you convince yourself you're happier the way that things were. So you're like, okay, that New Year's resolution, I can't do it anymore. It's too hard. So I'm just going to live my life like I did last year. It wasn't even that bad. And that's the mindset you go into. And that creates a cycle in which you start something, stop it, do nothing. And no matter what, you have this habit of beginning cycles, and sometimes with the best intentions. I don't feel like this is something where like you start something and know you're gonna flake out on it, but I do think that is your natural instinct to run from things, to avoid dealing with them, because that King of Cups, the reason why you are calm and stable is because you're taking control back over it. So instead of having to persevere past it, go through an uncharted water and not know what you're doing and have to admit that to yourself and have faith and trust, you're giving up because that is what you can control. That is how you are the King of Cups, because that's what you're used to. With the Sanctuary card, this is you creating what's familiar to you, creating your home, creating this environment in which you know exactly what you're doing. You're in control. You're in your home. You're in your sanctuary. You know where everything is. Even when other people don't, even when it seems chaotic, it's familiar to you. That's the energy you're creating with your life, because with the present moment, there's this level of always needing to control it, always knowing where you're headed. And if you don't know where you're headed, that scares you, and you don't feel comfortable giving up that faith, giving up that trust. I wouldn't be surprised if you looked at your birth chart, if you saw that you had a lot of planets in your fourth house. Maybe your fourth house was ruled by a zodiac that is naturally private, or if you have a lot of Scorpio placements or eighth house placements. Those are the areas I would look for in your life to kind of indicate this need to control things, but also be private with it, not let other people touch it. Because I think part of this avoidance style that you have in your life is that you know what you're doing. You know where everything is. So think about like your house. It could be completely messy to other people, but it's private. It's your sanctuary. It's your place. You know where everything is. It's like organized chaos to you. And that's what your life is. It makes sense to you. It brings comfort to you because it's what you've known. And it's like you're not pushing past that cycle. You're comfortable with what's familiar to you. And instead of being consistent to see a change, you're consistently inconsistent, so you don't change. You begin a lot of stuff, so you give the illusion of change, but there's not a lot of follow through. And I feel like some of you is on a more micro scale, so people don't even notice it. It's not like you're this asshole who's always flaking out on people where they can see it. It's subtle, but it's enough for you. If you looked at your life, if you analyzed it, really reflect on every goal you've set for yourself. And question one, have you even set goals for yourself? And two, if you have, what have you actually followed through with them? Because it really feels to me like there's this energy of, oh, I'll just give up, I'll just change. And it's not that you don't want your goal to work out, especially if you have the cycle where you start something, stop it, pivot. You fully think you're doing everything that you should be doing. You're like, well, if it's not working, I need to change it. I need to get results. I need something to work. And you're not realizing you need to be consistent for things to work out. Think about like if you were to physically focus on your health and you started to work out, and let's say your goal is to lose weight, you need to be consistent with that. If you're not consistent with it, it doesn't mean that it's not working. It just means it's not working at the speed you want it to. That's your ego. When it comes to timelines and the path forward with things, that's your ego speaking. Your ego wants that instant gratification. Your ego wants to show these results off to people and to be able to brag. When you have before and afters, that's like your origin story. That's some proof that you can show to people and say, look how great I am. I have done this in my life. I overcame this. What have you done? That's an ego-based mindset. And that's why you want it. But it doesn't mean that it has to happen in that timeline for you to be successful. And I almost feel like you need to redefine what success is for you in order to fully break this cycle. I also feel because you do have this avoidant style in your life, that you don't have faith or trust in the process because you don't have faith and trust in yourself. I think that could be why you start so many things, because it's almost like you're looking for distractions in your life. And so when when it comes to trying to focus on breaking the cycle, setting new goals for yourself, I would start by suggesting the first goal is for you to love yourself, to work on your relationship with yourself, work on trusting yourself. I would also want you to reflect on, do you not trust yourself because you've never proved yourself to be consistent? Like deep down, if your lack of trust comes from the fact that you know you're not consistent, and maybe this can be the new beginning of you becoming more consistent, of you thinking before you do agree to date people, and make sure that you genuinely want to continue seeing them before you commit to that level of a relationship. Maybe this could be a new change for you to finally figure out what you want to do with your life, with your career, with your purpose, and you start to find entries into that. Maybe this could be a time to develop your spiritual abilities. This could be a time to develop a routine for yourself, set up some structure in your life. No matter what you want to do with your life, just begin by treating yourself better and showing up for yourself. So I would suggest starting with goals that are small, that are just for yourself. Nothing to show other people before and afters, but to show it to yourself. Because once you start to build up that trust with yourself, then you can do it for bigger things in life. But you really got to be conscious about the fact that you'll start things and then you'll stop it when you need to continue with them. And so next time you want to run from something, really sit and ask yourself why, and see if it's stemming from this need to control the outcome, to say, I don't trust that I'm going to get what I want out of this. I don't trust that it's going to work out. I don't trust that it's going to go my way. So I'm just running so that I'm the reason it didn't work out, instead of seeing that this thing that I wanted so badly let me down. It's easier for you to break your own heart than it is for this thing that you really want it to. And so just be conscious of that, because when you're conscious of it, you can actually sit with yourself and you can figure out, is this my avoidance style coming out? Or is this something that I actually need to leave? Because even if you are avoidant of things in your life, it doesn't always mean that that's inherently wrong. A broken clock is still right twice a day. So I don't want you to stay in situations that you really shouldn't, because you're not trusting yourself to make the right call for yourself. Just be more mindful about why you're doing things, and that will show you if it's a valid reason or if it's just your fears pushing you away from this. And so I really hope that this was the advice that you needed. I hope that I didn't hurt your ego too badly, but I really do hope that this helped you on some level, even if it doesn't resonate for you now. I hope this message stays in the back of your mind and you can just remember it the next time you want to run from things. And if this video resonated for you, please let me know in the comments down below. Give this video a big thumbs up and share with others. Any way you can support this channel really helps me out. I would love it if you subscribed and became a part of this family. I'll have other videos of mine linked in the cards above for you to watch next, and I can't wait to see you all in my next video. I hope you have a good one. Until then, bye. Pile 2, I'll stare directly at the sun but never in the mirror. For your cards, you have Shadow, Connection, the Two of Cups, the Queen of Swords, the Tower, Six of Pentacles, and the Hermit. I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but I feel like your guides are calling you out for it, and I want to bring it to your awareness. You're not as deep as you think you are. It feels to me that you actually do have a sense of understanding with your ego and with your shadow side. I don't feel like this is the first time you've done shadow work. I don't feel like this is the first time that you've tried to understand yourself better and change behaviors, fix issues in your life. What I do think is your problem and why you constantly are looking to do shadow work is that you only ever touch the surface level of it, and then your ego shuts it down. And I'm saying this as someone who used to do it. So don't take this the wrong way, because I'm not saying this with any judgment. I'm saying this from my own experience. Shadow work's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be something where you hear it like a daily horoscope from a newspaper and you can see how it fits to your life and then you move on. Shadow work should kind of change you and hit deep, and sometimes it does hurt because it's shadow work. It's looking at your shadow and making a connection with it. That's not easy to do, and so it's not gonna be, oh hi, and then walk away. And to me, that feels like what a lot of your shadow work is. It's like, oh, this is why I do that. Okay, it's very much giving, you look, you analyze, and then you comfort. Instead of sitting with it with the Hermit energy here, you take it and you're like, okay, yeah, that fits to what I know. Your ego is fitting shadow work messages to fit what your ego wants. And I know that's not easy to hear when you feel like you've been doing the work. It's like you've been putting in this energy and then you realize, oh fuck, I haven't. This is your Tower moment. And I say that because you have the Queen of Swords here. The Queen of Swords knows truth. And so it's not like your ego's not admitting anything about yourself, but it's admitting the nice parts. I wouldn't be surprised looking at your sun sign or your star sign, whatever you call it, if a majority of what you consider to be your shadow work fits with the tropes that would fit with the negative sides of your sun sign. And I say that because the sun rules our ego. The self that we put out, that we hide behind, it kind of reveals our mask and our beliefs, where we use them to kind of control and dictate our lives. That's why it's the sun. It's that ruling energy. Think about the lyrics that you chose for this pile. I'll stare directly at the sun, but never in the mirror. You're so busy staring at the sun, at your ego, at what you think your ego is, that you don't actually look in the mirror and see what your true ego is. And that's why you were drawn to this message, because it's not that you're not doing the work. It's just you're putting a lot of energy into the wrong places. Shadow work is not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. Sometimes shadow work messages don't even resonate with you at first, because that's how much your ego doesn't want to accept it. Have you ever gotten into like a really big fight with someone, and while you're fighting, they acknowledge some truths, they say something that hurts your feelings, and because you're in fight mode, your ego completely rejects it. Your ego defends yourself. Sometimes you might say something back to kind of hurt them, cut them down as much, but then you reflect on it over the next couple of weeks and you're like, oh fuck, that's true, and it sticks with you. Then you can make changes. That's what shadow work is. Shadow work is that friend, that partner with the Two of Cups here, who's saying something, bringing it to light for you, and while you don't want to admit it, deep down you know they're right. Shadow work requires healing. That's why you had this Hermit card here saying you're gonna have to go into your womb a little bit. You're gonna have to kind of like baby yourself and heal yourself through this process. So that's what I mean when I say shadow work is not something where you hear this thing about yourself and you're like, oh, that's cool, that fits with what I believe, or I knew that about myself, unless it's something that you've already worked through and it's just someone repeating the message to you. But if it's a brand new piece of insight on yourself, on your psyche, that's not going to be something you pick up and just take with grace. And that also fits with this Six of Pentacles that you have. This card represents give and take, and it's almost like you're taking and then dumping it out just as fast, in one ear out the other. It's not that you're not receiving stuff, but you're not processing, you're not actually understanding. It's like you've oversimplified what your ego is, and it's blinding you to the reality of how you can be behaving. I'm gonna pull a card. I just want to get a little bit more insight on your situation here. Shapeshifter. In the back of the deck is Judgment. Yes, I feel like there's a lot of people, unfortunately, in your life, you kind of appear as two-faced. They don't believe everything that you're doing is coming with the right intention. It feels like with your ego, you don't realize the way that people can see through you, through your facade. And instead of even connecting with them, it's almost like you are using them. And it doesn't have to be using them in a manipulating sense. When I say you're using them, it's that they're there for you, they're showing up for you, and you don't do the same for them. And again, I'm not saying this where I'm judging you, because I don't feel like a lot of you, this is malicious. I don't think when it comes down to it, you wouldn't have their back. It's just you aren't reassuring them that you have their back, and that's what the difference is. There's a lack of connection here, and there's a lack of a partnership here. It almost feels like because you might have a lot going on in your life, you might be having these problems and difficulties that you're facing, that you get so self-absorbed with it, and you don't realize how you could be projecting that to others. It also feels like in order to unload your weaknesses and your struggles off your own back, you're giving that out to others, and you almost baby yourself, you coddle yourself in a lot of ways that I don't feel like you have consciously been aware of. And so that makes it, with this shape-shifting energy to the people in your life, they almost feel as if it's not even worth going to you for things, because you're going to turn it into something for you. You're going to turn it into something to relate to you. You're going to make it about you. There's almost a self-centeredness of your ego that you aren't able to see, that you're not able to actually fix because you're not aware of it. What I love about this connection energy here, I'm just realizing not only does your lyric say, but never in the mirror, you also have a reflection here, and it's a little bit distorted. She's not looking at it because she's focused on the horizon, but you kind of need to look down and see what's being reflected back up to you. I also feel like there's a lot of people in your life who are triggering you. I feel like you might be having a lot of difficulties with people in all areas of your life. This could be in your relationships, with your friends, with your families, with your coworkers specifically. I feel like there's been these instances in your life in which like someone's like really getting on your nerves, and it feels like it's popped up a lot recently. It's like you can't pinpoint what it is exactly, but you know there's something about these people that you just don't like. It's like so annoying to you. That's the best word to describe it. It's like a little like bird like chirping in your ear, and the reason why it's so annoying is because they're mirroring back to you the things you don't like about yourself. That's why you can't quite place it. You can't pinpoint it because your ego doesn't want to accept what it is for them, because then it has to accept it for you. Because there's a big difference. I'm going to go with the name Ruby because of the cloak here for Red Riding Hood. There's a big difference between saying I can't stand Ruby, but I don't know why, versus saying I can't stand Ruby because every time I try to talk to her about this project that we need to get done for work, she ends up talking about her boyfriend and the struggles that they're having at home. One of them is vague, one of them is open-ended. Another one is something that you can see, and let's say you're judging Ruby for doing that with others. If that's something you also do, now you have to judge yourself with it. There's this lack of definitive judgment you want to place on people, because that can come back to you. If you can explain why, you have to look at yourself and admit that for yourself. So it feels like you're being triggered by people who are mirroring things back to you so that you could see it, that you can learn it, that you can figure out how to express it. But instead of doing that, your ego is shutting that down and just, again, surface level with everything. Surface level with yourself, with your introspection, and surface level with the problems that you're facing in your life with fully understanding it. This can also be true when it comes to little problems you're having in your life where it's not necessarily with a person, but it is problems you're facing. So for example, let's say you and your partner are fighting a lot more. It's not like you hate them as a person, but you are having struggles in your relationship. It's because when it comes to solving the problems in your life, you don't go down to the roots. You don't actually figure out the problem that is causing everything. So when we look at problems in our life, they can typically be boiled down to one main thing, and then everything else is branching off of it. What you've been doing is surface level. Aesthetically, you've been going in, you've been trimming all the trees, making them look really nice. So, okay, sure, we had this little bit of a tiff. Let's cut that off, let's fix it. Okay, good, we're done, move on. Instead of looking at the fact the tree is rotting from the core, instead of getting to the root problem. And I'm just being pointed out with the Hermit card here, and in this deck specifically, it represents a fetus in the womb. The womb, the root problem, the birthplace, the center. Pile 2, your reading, either your ego or someone in your life did not want you to hear the last part of that reading because my camera literally glitched and saved none of the second half of the video when I started to talk about the Hermit card and the womb energy here. What I was saying before the camera cut off is there's almost like this tendency with the womb-like energy here for you to baby yourself and baby your ego in a sense, where you don't want to hear anything that's going to actually discomfort it. Again, that's why things are very surface level, doing the work but not making it difficult. And I feel like the reason for that is because your ego has been so protected that the slightest discomfort feels like a catastrophe to you. The slightest inconvenience feels like this tower moment here, where you're having breakthroughs and you're changing your mindset, you're changing your perspective, and you're changing your life basically. And it makes it where you feel like you're having breakthroughs more than you actually are. That's why in the beginning of the reading, your spirit guides wanted to let you know you're not as deep as you think you are, because you think you're having these grand breakthroughs, these grand insights, but they stem from the fact that you really don't push yourself too much. So when you have those small instances where you are, it feels like it's more than it is. Think about if you had been in a very unhealthy relationship. When you finally meet someone who's doing the bare minimum, it feels like a lot to you because you never had it before. You kind of need to recalibrate your level of uncomfortableness when it comes to growing, when it comes to changing, when it comes to transforming, when it comes to becoming a better version of yourself. And I say this not in a judgmental place, but in a way where your spirit guides are trying to let you know, like, you could grow to be this incredible person. Like, all these goals you want to set for yourself, you can achieve them. You can get there. But in order to get there, you need to sit in this uncomfortableness, because it's not going to be an easy path. It's not going to be an easy road. So your ego's going to want to give up. Your ego's not going to want to do that because you're not used to it. If you break out of this cycle now, you can teach yourself how to be disciplined. You can teach yourself to put in the effort to achieve that. But if you don't, you're not going to get it because it's going to be too hard. And so when it comes to your shadow work, it's not that you're on the wrong track. You just need to push a little bit deeper. You need to go a little bit more into your psyche and really understand what the problem is instead of going with the first solution that pops into your head. Because that first solution is what your ego's offering to you. You have to push past that to see what's underneath the ego, what it's hiding from you. Think of it kind of as if you're watching a movie. The ego is the predictable twist. It is the setup that the breadcrumbs have led you, the audience, the viewer, to understand, to put together for yourself. And when it happens, you see how the characters didn't know, but you were able to put it together because that's where the creator was leading you towards. Actual shadow work is the plot twist that no one saw coming, no one predicted. There were not breadcrumbs to get there. There were little clues, but you would really have to sit and piece it together and be very analytical to figure it out. So it's possible to get there, but it's not the one that you were meant to fall for. It's not what you were meant to believe. That's what shadow work is. It's the plot twist you never saw coming. It's not supposed to be the pieces of information that your ego already knows. I do want to pull one more card because the camera shut off when I was doing your reading before, and just see what we get. So you have truth and knowledge. The back of the deck is simplicity. And this was the back of the deck when I first pulled your cards for the reading. And so simplicity has been kind of following you throughout this reading. And I don't think it's in the way that you're going to interpret it. That's what this reading's all about for you. Thinking about things on a little bit of a deeper level. And so I don't think this is saying like simplicity as in the sense that like you're simple or you're treating shadow work as something simple. I also think it means that simplicity is the fact that 2 + 2 = 4. 3 + 3 = 6. It's something that just is. It's something that exists because it simply is easy. It's always like taking me back to school when they would say, show your work for these questions. Sometimes you can't show your work because it's so simple. Shadow work can be simple. Easy and simple are not always inherently hand in hand. Simple kind of exists with not a lot of confusion, not a lot of mess, because it simply is what is. Easy is the path of least resistance, which is not always the right path. It's not always the correct one. And so when we think about simplicity, it's about doing what is the simplest solution to get the end result you want. Not working harder, but working smarter. And so think about when it comes to the problems in your life, how the roots are the issue. The simplest solution is going to be to dig up those roots and get it out of your life. The easiest solution is to ignore it and just trim the trees as you already were going to. That's kind of what the difference is. But getting to the truth and knowledge cards we have here, there's a block you have with yourself when it comes to being authentic with this truth energy here in the throat chakra. It feels like you don't like to speak things into existence. There's almost this energy here of hiding from things, hiding from the truth with this knowledge energy as well. It's like reading things, reading about it, hearing stories about it, but distancing yourself from it on some level. Now it's starting to click into place. So your ego really is affected by your throat chakra. I don't know if you have heavy like Venus placements, Virgo, Taurus, or even your second house placements in your birth chart. But there definitely is this energy here of like, when you speak things into existence, you manifest them and you bring them into your life. Your words hold a lot of power. And so because of that, it almost feels like the shadow work you've done before, you never speak in aloud. You never talk to other people about it. You never speak goals and manifestations into existence unless they're in line with your ego. Because when you speak about things, you have this very powerful energy about you that is your connection. That's almost why your ego doesn't want you to speak about things to fix them, because when you don't speak about it, you live in this limbo where you're in your thoughts and you can overthink and you can get confused by everything and you can't actually solve anything. Start communicating more. I feel like your ego has blocked you and convinced you that if you speak about a bad thing, you're manifesting that bad thing. That's not true if you're speaking about it to fix it. Don't say negative, degrading things about yourself. But if you are having a problem with someone in your life, talk about it. Like, let them know, or talk to a third party about it and say, hey, I could use your advice. What do you think? You can speak about things in that way. Do not be afraid to use your words, because your ego has convinced you that will bring doom into your life. Because when you talk to people, you get advice. When you talk to yourself, you can hear things with another perspective, and you can gain knowledge, you can gain insight. Everything does not need to be internal. Everything does not need to be in your head. It does not have to be your mind. Sometimes the simplest solution is to ask other people for advice. Your ego holds you back by controlling your voice, by convincing you not to say things, by not allowing you to speak to others. Some of you, if there's like a career or hobby that you want to go into that allows you to use your voice, like stand up for yourself, stand up for others, speak up, maybe you want to sing, maybe you want to go into poetry, things along those lines, I feel like your ego has shied you away from it, saying you're not going to be good at it, when really you would thrive. It's like what you're kind of like called to do, and your ego doesn't like it. Like your ego wants to control you. So definitely consider tapping into your voice more and utilizing it, whether it's metaphorically, whether it's physically, because I think it would open a lot of new opportunities up for you. And so I hope this resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and share with others. I would love it if you subscribed and became a part of this family. I'll have other videos of mine linked in the cards above for you to watch next, and I can't wait to see you all in my next video. I hope you have a good one. Until then, bye. Pile 3, pierced through the heart but never killed. For your cards, you have Death, 7 of Pentacles, 3 of Wands, Temperance, Travel, Fire, Perseverance. It feels like your biggest issue in life is that there's a lack of balance for you. It's one way or the other. It's so extreme, or it's completely chill, it's completely fine, to the point where there's no balance, there's no middle ground in your life. And that makes it very difficult when you're faced with obstacles and moments where you can grow and learn from it. You don't understand the lesson, because it's almost like you fall too far into it or you run away from it. There's not a balance. That's your biggest flaw in life that I think you have to learn in multiple areas, is how to find balance, how to find what's practical for you, where you don't make everything so extreme. Because when you make things so extreme, you prevent yourself from simplifying them and being able to find comfort and ease with them. And the thing about ourselves is, no matter if it's good or bad, we have to find comfort in order to enjoy life and in order to feel at peace with what we have. If you can never find that middle ground, if you can never find balance, you're constantly going to feel like you don't fit in, like you haven't found your place to be, because you never feel settled. You're never going to feel fulfilled, because everything is either too much, too overwhelming, or it's not enough. And this can lead to a lot of dissatisfaction in life with what you're doing, but also internally with yourself. And I feel like as a way for you to cope with things, you disassociate, you distance yourself from people, opportunities, situations, and you kind of make yourself numb to it so that you can pretend it doesn't affect you. It almost feels like you've been through very difficult challenges in your life, and instead of coping with it, you found these techniques that is actually causing more harm, but you don't feel like they are because they're working. And it kind of feels to me like your mindset might be, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But the purpose of fixing it is because it might work, but it's not going to work long term, because it's not healthy, it's not sustainable. Think about other aspects in life. Sure, you can get away with things, but once it catches up with you, once you get caught, there's not a way to backtrack if you're doing it wrong. And so it's like, yes, it's working, but at what cost? Your ego thinks that you know the cost, so you're like, it's fine. But really you don't, because you don't know the consequences of things until they're done. Until you face that consequence, it could be anything. And I feel like there's different karmic lessons that you might be facing that's trying to teach you that this isn't the best way to go about things. But instead of learning it, it's like you continue to dig your heels in. The reason I say this, you have the Death card. Now, the Death card does not mean anything health related. It's not an ominous card in this sense, because we're focusing on your shadow side and your ego. So the thing about our ego is our ego hates death, because death means that the ego does not have control. It means that the ego is losing, and that sense of identity and protection that it's clinging onto is fading away. And so because of that, the ego doesn't want change, it doesn't want transformation, it doesn't want growth, because our ego is very comfortable with where it's at. Death is a very uncomfortable process. It forces us to have to adapt to a situation that we did not want. And so because of that, when death appears in your life, your ego is always going to make it even harder for you to adapt to it, so you just give up. So you say it's not worth it, so you let it go. And so because of that, in your particular case, your ego will avoid accepting that death to ignore it and pretend like it's not there. That's why I feel like it might be easy for you to disassociate when things get to be too complicated in your life. Because you have these Seven of Pentacles, and if we look at this deck specifically, she's an investigator. She's looking at the pentacles, she's inspecting them, she's being analytical, she's being diligent, and she's making sure that everything is as it should be. And if it's not, she's going to get to the bottom of why it's not. The Seven of Pentacles is patience and perseverance. You also have the perseverance card here. So this tells me that you have a tendency to persevere, to be very diligent and determined and dedicated in your life. And when there's goals that you set for yourself, you're able to break them down in a very easy to understand way that allows you to achieve them. So I feel like you have achieved great success in your life, or you will achieve success in your life because of your personality. But with this type of personality, I think sometimes your ego makes you get hyper fixated on things, and you can obsess over them to the point where they're not healthy. That's what I mean. There's a lack of balance in your life. You're either disassociating or you're hyper fixated, and there's not a good in between that makes it productive. Because the thing is, while the Seven of Pentacles can be very productive, you can achieve your goals. When you get hyper fixated on it, it stagnates you. So yes, you achieve that goal, but now you can't do anything else because you're so fixated on it. You kind of hit the ceiling, and once you get there, you don't realize that there's a way to escape by breaking the roof and heading for the stars. There's a lot of self-imposed limiting beliefs on yourself that makes you think that where you're at or where you want to be is the best you're ever going to be able to do. And so it doesn't push you to do more. I do sense there's a very strong push when you are trying to run from things, when you're on that side of the balance where you want to avoid dealing with your emotions, dealing with complex situations. I sense there's an ability to adapt and run from them and bounce around to something else, distract yourself with something new to get fixated on. So I do believe you have an adaptability about you, but it is not productive for you. It is not one that's helping you achieve your goals by bouncing from ideas and skills that is helping like all go in the same direction. This is like you fixate on one thing, and either once you achieve it or once it becomes too stressful, then you pivot and you bounce to something else, because you have the Three of Wands and you have the fire energy and the travel energy. So there's a big energy here when it comes to your ego that you need to keep yourself distracted. If something becomes too real, too serious, and it's not something that you are able to hyperfixate on, you're going to run, you're going to flee. Because Temperance is all about finding balance in your life. And so the combination of the cards here and the song lyric that you chose is pierced through the heart but never killed. It's because you don't allow yourself to grieve. You don't allow yourself to process. You don't allow yourself to be killed, because that would require death. That would require change. That would require you to grow. So when you're pierced through the heart, it means there's things that should be hurting you. There's things that you should be feeling. There's processes you need to go through. But instead of actually dealing with it, you're distracting yourself with different things in your life, and you're pivoting to different things in your life. You're not allowing yourself to heal. That's what your ego needs to do. You need to grieve and mourn and experience loss in your life, whether it's situations or pieces of yourself as you grow and evolve, that you need to sit with and accept the changes, accept the parts of your life that are no longer what they once were. It feels like you've never taken the time to sit with this death-like energy and allow it to consume you so that you can feel your feelings and move on. You push everything down, you run away from it, you distract yourself with other things, and your ego gets to thrive because your ego's not faced with this death, but the parts of you that need to heal never can. So it also makes it where over time you're building more and more pain on top of one another that makes you have to distract yourself more, because now it's like your threshold, your limitations before they trigger you is already so filled, that cup is so filled up that even the tiniest drop of water can tilt you over the edge on these scales. And it wasn't always that case, but now there's too much that it's like you're overflowing. Recently, you have kind of felt this uneasiness, this shaky ground beneath you a lot more frequently than you used to. I feel like before, when you felt unfulfilled or lost, confused, it would be every once in a while, it would kind of like hit you, and then you would find a way to not feel it and move on, you know, tipping those scales one way or the other. But it feels like now this could even be something that you think about daily, that's really been like on your mind, it's been consuming you. And it stems because your ego's not allowing you to find fulfillment, because you're never sitting in the uncomfortableness. You're never asking yourself the hard questions. You're not reflecting, you're not learning, because you don't allow yourself to process things. You don't allow yourself to move on from them. And so when you're not allowing yourself to go through the learning, grieving process of life, you're not allowing yourself to change as you grow. It's kind of like when you were going through growing pains. If you just were in denial and said, I'm not growing, despite you actually growing, and you kept wearing the same shoes for the rest of your life that you did at age 5, your feet would hurt because you're cramming them into the shoe that no longer fits. You're gonna be uncomfortable, you're gonna be irritable, you're going to be upset and dissatisfied with your life because your shoes are pinching your feet. Like, you're wedging yourself into a role that no longer fits. And I feel like that's what's going on in your life. You're finding dissatisfaction because you're not actually doing anything that you want to do, because you haven't taken time to get to know you. Your ego has built this identity for you that you have persevered into without taking time with the 7 of Pentacles to figure out if that's what you want. The 3 of Wands is this energy of exploration, of finding your identity, of going out and embarking on new waters, new territory, and doing it for self-discovery. The wand suit is what makes you passionate and creative, what inspires you, what's your spark. And so the 3 of Wands is being inspired and going for it and not knowing where it's going to lead, but just seeking out the adventure to see where it leads you. That leads into the 4 of Wands, and the 4 of Wands in tarot represents fulfillment. It represents achieving new milestones. That fire energy is that Wands energy as well. And so everything with these cards is telling you you're going to be able to overcome this if you're conscious of it. If you put in an effort to find fulfillment in your life, to ask the hard questions, to be real with yourself, to be honest with yourself, and stop avoiding things and stop running from things, stop pushing them away, and actually took time out of your day to look yourself in the eye, look the situation in your eye, look your trauma in the eye, and face it. It's gonna be painful, but you're gonna grow from it. You have to accept the pain that has happened to you, even though it's not fun. No part of you, ego or not, is going to enjoy this process, but it will be cathartic and it will be what you need. And afterwards, when you begin to heal, you will feel better. And so something you have to remember with shadow work is there's a reason why it's called work. You have to be dedicated. You have to go into it knowing that's not always going to be fun, but it's going to get you where you want to be. The same way with your job. Every day you don't do things that you always love, but you get through the mundane stuff by knowing it's rewarding in the end. Whether it's because you love your job, whether it's because you're getting a good paycheck at the end, whether it's because you need this job. There's so many reasons that we can use to motivate us to do something, but they all lead to an end result that in some way they add value to our lives. And that's the same with shadow work. It's going to add value to your life that you currently are lacking. You don't really have value in your life because you're not satisfied with your life. And so by forcing yourself to heal, going through this pain, processing it, you're not going to find the value from the pain, but you will find it on the healing journey. And the only way to get to that part is to go through the pain. I would suggest for you to find ways that are cathartic for you to sit with previous situations and process them in a healthy way for you. So some of you, this is going to be getting a therapist and having someone to talk to. Others of you, this is going to be through journaling and writing down your feelings, writing down your emotions, keeping track of them. You could also do this with a creative outlet, but I would really recommend for you to have something outside of yourself to help you along this process that can kind of keep records or keep track of what you're doing, so that you can look back on them and have this period of reflection of like where you started versus where you get to. I don't feel like this is something you should just do internally, because then your perception of your progress is going to be warped. This is definitely a healing journey that's going to have to be slow and steady in order for you to get where you want to be. This is not a quick solution. The shadow work is not going to be one where you can just sit and journal for a day and be okay. This feels like it's going to take a while for you to sit and figure out where this stems from in your life and really reflect on previous situations. That's where I feel like a lot of your pain comes from, that has forced you to have these coping mechanisms that aren't the healthiest for you. And so you really have to find a healthy way for you to sit with the past situations and go through everything you went through and be able to find acceptance with it, where this death process can happen, whether that's finding peace, whether that's finding apathy, whether that's finding forgiveness, whether that's allowing yourself to move on, whether that's any other emotion under the sun. It's going to be for you to come to terms with on your own, but it really feels like there's a specific situation in your life that you've been running from that caused a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, and it's time to finally face it in order to not have it haunt you anymore. And so I'm sending you so much love as you're going through this. I know it's not easy, but you got this. I really hope my video is able to help you in some way. If this resonated, let me know in the YouTube comments down below. Also give this video a big thumbs up and share with others who need to see this video as well. If you're new, please subscribe. I would love to have you a part of this family. I'm gonna have more videos, mine linked in the cards above for you to watch next, and I can't wait to see you all in my next video. I hope you all have a good one until then. Bye. Pile 4, one day I'll watch as you're leaving. These are the cards that you got. Card 22, she feels she knows. Queen of Pentacles, the Hanged Man, Knight of Wands, and the Lovers. So I don't think that you have a lot of insecurities that dictate what you do or cause you to not act. But I do sense there's an energy of overthinking that distracts you from being able to act. It doesn't feel like your insecurities override what you should do. I actually feel like for the most part you're a very confident person. I feel like you really know what you want. The Queen of Pentacles is a very good card. She's very self-assured. She's very confident within herself. But she's also the nurturer, the mother-like energy. She knows her role and she does it very good. She's very work-oriented. She's going to deliver on the task and she's going to do so in her way because her way is the right way. But she's going to be encouraging of those around her. And so she's confident, she's correct, she's focused, but she's also empathetic. She's not going to belittle people for where they're at. She's going to meet them where they're at and work with them as long as they are willing. She is someone where she can be very stern, very focused. If you do not get along with her, there could be intense opposition because she is not going to allow disrespect around her, but she does represent a level of authority that allows there to be a civil energy between her and the people she doesn't get along with. So she's this very respected energy in the court cards. Then you have the Knight of Wands, which is a little less put together, much more impulsive, a little bit more reckless. The Knight of Wands knows what they want. They have their eyes like locked on a goal and they almost get like tunnel vision to go and achieve it, to make it happen, because they're very passionate, they're very driven. And the Knight is more immature. You know, the Queen, she's very like calm and cool, collected. The Knights are still navigating things. They're a lot wiser and more observant than the Page, but they're still on high alert, like they're on guard and they have their task, but their task is a lot more of a reaction-based thing, you know, protecting the kings and the queens. Their job is to be the knight, to be on alert and to react. Their goal is not the same as the queen, where she's gonna have different projects that she's working on. So there's a little bit of a combative energy here, where there's this like energy of like knowing what you need to do and getting it done in an orderly fashion versus reaction. The Lover's energy as well indicates that there could be some potential trouble in your relationship that's making you feel uneasy with where you're at, where you're not feeling insecure because you still are confident with who you are and you know what you bring to the relationship, but there is this doubt of where things are headed or what the plans are for you too. Because the Hanged Man is when you walk into a situation and like this Queen of Pentacles energy, you know what you were getting yourself into. Like you were very meticulous about like what the obstacle was and how you were going to overcome it. And so you walk into the situation and it's like everything that could have went wrong did go wrong. Like things are going haywire. There's unexpected surprises that throw you off, and all of a sudden this calm energy has become the Knight of Wands and just goes into like fight or flight mode and gets very strategic, and now you're stuck. Like you went into something knowing where you were at, and now it's almost like you've lost that plot, you've lost that sense within yourself. It almost feels like shadow work wise, whether you're in a relationship or not, the energy you went into this relationship as, you've lost it, where you're not insecure, you're not lacking your confidence, but you don't realize how much of yourself you have chipped away at to be a version that this person wants, or be a version of yourself that this person is able to find useful in some way. So if it's not a romantic relationship, this could be with a family member, this could be with a friend, this is just someone who's using you in some way. And in order for you to keep them in your life, you have to kind of uphold this version of yourself. Now you have card 22, she feels, she knows. And when this card came out, when I was shuffling for you, the way that my mind finished that was, she feels, she knows, but does she act? It feels like in your life, there's almost this energy of overthinking things, where you let them slide by, where you let them, you know, leave your life, you know, I'll watch as you're leaving, but also you let people stay with habits that you don't necessarily agree with, and you allow that to continue. It feels like internally your intuition saying, hey, I don't like this, like I'm uncomfortable by this, whether it's your own action or the other person's action. But there's a piece here with the people you surround yourself with that you don't like, but you're not acting on it. You're feeling it, you're struggling with it, but you don't say anything. You tell them it's okay. With the Lover's card here, the Hanged Man is how you really feel. You feel caught, you feel trapped, you don't know what to do. When it comes to your shadow work, you need to understand there's no situation that you can't get out of. You might have to come up with a plan. You might have to be this Queen of Pentacles energy and tap back into your roots, tap back into who you once were, and be a little bit more meticulous, be a little bit more cautious, plan, be strategic, and don't do anything rash. Don't allow this Knight of Wands to take over and control you, but you can find a way out. I don't want your ego to convince you that you have to stay in a situation because you can't get out of it. You can. The situation might not be ideal, but this situation also is not ideal. I just feel like one of you needs to hear that so that your ego does not make you stay in something that is bad for you. The reason you're getting this shadow work message is to say, hey, what happened here? Like, you're good with who you are. It's, again, this is such a weird energy because it doesn't feel like you've lost your happiness for yourself or for like who you are. It's just you haven't seen how you've changed. And it would be okay if this was like positive growth. It would be okay if this was something like you want it to be, and so you changed in a way that was beneficial to you. This feels like you changed without realizing it, and you're not a version of yourself that you like. You're a version of yourself that is backtracked. You went from this queen to this knight. You went from this manifester and this goal-oriented person to this reaction-based person, which at the right time and place can be correct, but that's not who you want to be right now. It almost feels like the people that you're surrounded by, they make you very quick to your emotions and not happy emotions. It makes you very quick to get angry or get frustrated with them. And it feels to me like you might be in constant arguments or fights with the people in your life because you can't see eye to eye, but yet you don't take that as a sign that something's wrong. You're not seeing the bigger picture. You're not seeing the habits that are forming in these relationships and these dynamics. When you're surrounded by the right people, you're not going to fight constantly. And so it seems to me there could be a level of sabotage going on in your life in which you're thinking about things so much, but you're never acting, you're not changing them, you're not taking control of anything. It almost feels like your ego likes to give others control over your life. Your ego likes to take a backseat and allows this person, whether it's romantic or not, to dictate what you do and don't do with your life. That's why so much of yourself has morphed into this person or this version that this person wants, because it's so much easier when you don't have to decide things for yourself. When you're just going to listen to what this person wants to do. This Knight of Wands energy is exactly what they want. You're more impulsive with things. You're not decisive. You have your sights set on this goal. They get to tell you what that goal is. And so you walked into a situation which you thought you had control over it, but you don't. I think the reason this is coming up is because it's not that this is inherently a problem. Like, this person might not have any malice in their heart. They could have the best intentions ever, but you still need agency in your life to decide what you want, what you don't want, and be in a situation where you get to say that. You get to set those boundaries, and you get to let those boundaries exist for your own sake of an identity. You get to be your own person instead of this conjoined version of them. Because without that backbone, without those boundaries, this can be weaponized against you, even if that's not this person's intentions. If it's happening with them, it will happen with others. And even if this person doesn't have bad intentions, too much of a good thing is still bad. Eventually, you'll reach a point with this relationship, this friendship, whatever your dynamic is with them, where they will get fed up with having to control things and they'll walk away from you, they'll cut you out, and then you're left either having to do things for yourself, which you have not done in ages because you got into complacent with how things were, or you will trust the first person who walks into your life and they will not be a good person for you. They will take advantage of you. Or this person will end up making so many choices for themselves out of selfishness that when you finally do say you don't want to do something or you don't agree with them, they won't know how to react because you haven't formed a healthy dynamic where you have these boundaries. You're giving them too much power over your life right now, and eventually they will get used to that, and when you take it away from them, you will see how the tables turn. It might not even be conscious on their level, but everyone is capable of having power go to their head, and you're giving them too much power over your life. It's not even about what they're doing, what they're not doing, what they could do, what they might not do. Why are you giving someone the power to do this to you when there's no need to? You should be the only one with this power over yourself, and you should have enough strength right now to accept what you feel and what you know and say, this is not what I want. This is not what I need. This is not healthy. This is not beneficial. It feels like there's a little bit of a sabotaging energy going on in your life where you are just taking a back seat to things and there's not enough agency. You've lost who you were. And instead of fighting to get that version of yourself back, you've just accepted that you've lost it. I really feel like you need to sit and do shadow work with yourself and figure out why you let that part of you go. Because the truth is, despite how great the Queen of Pentacles is, there had to be something about you that you associated with that energy that you don't want to deal with. And instead of sitting with that uncomfortableness and understanding it and breaking it down, understanding that you're multifaceted and that multiple things can be true for you at once. And so while you could have all these great qualities, you could have had some qualities that you didn't like as much. And instead of separating them, it's like throwing the baby out with the basket. You've allowed yourself to leave behind who you were, and you've lost yourself in the process because you didn't just take away the things you didn't like about that version of yourself. You took away everything. Now you're this mode of this other person's figure. And so when you do this shadow work, you need to ignore your ego telling you to not tap back into that person and re-walk in those past experiences and see what part of you did not like that Queen of Pentacles energy. Some negative side effects of the Queen of Pentacles is that she can be a little bit boring. She can be very diligent, but she sacrifices a lot because of that. She is focused on her goals, but that doesn't always make her the most fun person to be around. Yeah, she's empathetic, but that doesn't mean that she's going to have a good time or she's going to be the fun person that you want to hang out with. She's the person you need, not always the person you want. She shoulders a lot of responsibility, and sometimes it's easier not to have responsibility. I think this could be an overcorrection for you when it comes to responsibility. But regardless of what you didn't like about your life then, you need to separate it and find a way to bridge the gap and say, you know what, these are the characteristics that I did like about myself, and tap back into that, bring that into your life. Start to set boundaries with the people in your life and start to embody this energy, whether it's by doing something for yourself or doing something for others. Like you could take this one baby step at a time, or you could start running a marathon. It doesn't matter, just go at your own pace, but start implementing aspects of your old life into your new life in a way where you're blending the two. It's not like you gotta take it or leave it. Like you are you. And just because you're tapping back into this part of you doesn't mean that everything new about yourself you have to leave behind. There's a middle ground that exists here. You'll be able to find it. The Hanged Man is about navigating the situation because you walked in, you didn't know where it was going to go, and you were underprepared. You got caught, but then the Fool is able to carry on his fool's journey. You're going to be able to get yourself free from this obstacle. You're going to be able to navigate a way around it. And so when it comes to your shadow work, you really just got to reflect on the ways that you are sabotaging yourself and why that is, where it stems from, what from yourself did you not like, and then you can learn how to avoid that, but implement the positive parts. That will get you back on track. That will get you to figure out what you want. Where when it comes to she feels, she knows you're going to be okay. Because you have the Lover's card. This represents balance and harmony coming into your life. That's all that's missing right now. And the Lover's card also represents Gemini. Well, Gemini is the second zodiac. It's ruled by the twins. So there's a lot of duality there. Well, she feels, she knows is card 22. 22 equals number 4 when you add 2 plus 2, but it also is broken down by the number 2 repeating. 2 is a number of balance. It's a number of duality and polarity, and it represents the balance that you need to find in life. Well, 4 represents that foundation, setting the groundwork, laying everything you need in order to build the life that you want. And so what these cards are telling you is that by finding balance in your life, by sitting with the uncomfortableness of your ego and separating things to see the reality of them, you're going to be able to lay a better foundation where you're going to get what you want out of life. It just feels like right now you're stuck living your life through someone else instead of living your life for you. And you're overthinking what you should do instead of just acting. And so the way that you can break through this is to begin acting, to start implementing those old aspects of yourself and doing things for yourself and setting your own boundaries and living your life for you instead of living it for others, instead of letting them dictate things for you, decide things for you. This is about you. She feels, she knows, she acts. She feels, she knows, she's listening to her intuition. And this isn't just for women. I'm just saying that because that's what the card says. But feel, know, act. Just live your life based on your intuition and what feels right. Because you know this isn't feeling right now. You know your intuition is warning you against something. You're just ignoring it because you don't want to do the hard work. Because you don't want to set these boundaries. Because you don't want to have to think. You don't want to have to shoulder so much responsibility. I get it. Your spirit guides get it too. But it's not healthy. It's a temporary band-aid and you're bleeding out. You need to address it before it becomes a bigger problem than it is. Right now, this is fixable. And so fix it now. It might be boring, might be mundane, but it's necessary. And then once you do fix it, you're going to be able to manifest so much more. You're going to be able to feel so much better and secure about your life because you're the one in control. Right now, you're living in limbo, you're confused, you have a lot of questions, and you're thinking about a lot, but you're overthinking it to the point where you're running in circles. You're not actually getting to the bottom of anything. You're not thinking productively. That's what's missing, is thinking with a purpose, thinking for an end result, planning where you're headed instead of just living in limbo, existing in the limbo, whatever this person wants, whatever they think sounds good, you agree with. This is about stepping back into your own power and your own energy. Because while it's not what your ego wants to do, it's what you need to do in order to be happy. You're not going to be fulfilled because your ego is allowing you to just watch everything. Because think about when people do leave and enter your life, like the lyric said that you chose, one day I'll watch as you're leaving. You don't want to watch as people are leaving your life. You don't want to watch as you sabotage relationships to become too dependent on that you lose yourself and lose them when they eventually walk away. You don't want to watch when someone's leaving. You either want to be the one to leave or you want to be able to make them stay because you're great, because you know that you are great. You have these amazing characteristics that you bring to the table, but it goes beyond just what you can offer to them and how much you are your own person with your own identity despite having them in your life as another support. You're supposed to be a team, whether this is romantic or not. The people in your life are your team. You're supposed to support one another. You're not supposed to replace one another. They are not you. You are you. And you have so many amazing qualities that maybe they don't have. And so you can support one another without losing yourself in them. There just needs to be a little bit more boundaries on your end because it feels like, and I know this isn't necessarily what you want to hear, but this is your fault. You are the one who's being dependent on them. Whether or not they're taking advantage of that, you're giving them the power to do so. And so right now you really need to take back control, take back your power, and step into the Queen of Pentacles energy in a productive way with the qualities that you like. The qualities you don't like, you can find a different energy and element of your life to replace that. But you have to acknowledge the good and the bad in order to sort it and figure out what is best for you. You can't just throw everything out and expect your life to be okay. A metaphor that you can kind of use to understand what's going on is if you are a house, let's say you are a house and you are moving into it. And let's take the kitchen, for example. That's the Queen of Pentacles in this case. If there were parts about the kitchen you didn't like, you wouldn't say, let's gut the kitchen and not replace it and just wall it up, because that wouldn't be practical. You need the kitchen to exist. You need the kitchen to feed you, to make you happy if you want to have good food, and to be a place where people can come over and interact. And so just because you boarded it up and you demolished it, it doesn't mean that you don't need it. It just means you don't have access to it. In reality, what you would do is say, you know what, I don't like this fridge, I don't like the floor. Let's replace it with XYZ. And you would cultivate it into something that you like, something that you're proud to show off to people when they come to your house, a place that you feel happy when you cook foods for yourself. But now it would be practical. You would have made practical changes that make it yours. That's what you're missing. You didn't find your identity in the Queen of Pentacles. You had it temporarily and then you threw it out when it didn't fit you anymore instead of figuring out who you are. And so there needs to be some reflection on your identity and what you want in order to have these breakthroughs. But definitely be aware of your codependence with others and pull back, be a little bit more responsible with your energy so you don't end up hurting yourself. And so I'm sending you so much love as you're going through this. If this message resonated for you, let me know in the YouTube comments down below. Also give this video a big thumbs up and share with others who need to hear it. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. I would love to have you a part of this family. And I'm going to have more videos of mine linked in the cards above so you can watch after this. And I can't wait to see you all in my next video. I hope you have a good one until then. Bye.